Welcome to the Sound of Movement podcast. Today we're wrapping up a week of talking about athletic development, and of course we're going to be talking specifically about the UMS today, the Unified Movement System, which is our program that we teach to make driven people strong, flexible and athletic.
Welcome everybody. If you're new to the tribe, Rich is behind the mix, Rad is at the table with me, Yanni Bullmeister, and we are Unity Gym, experts at turning driven people into athletes. This episode is brought to you by the Unified Movement System, the only online program effectively balancing strength, flexibility and fitness so you can unleash your inner athlete. Get daily coaching by us, plus our epic Foundations Prep program and revolutionary structural balance blueprint to create your ideal program and optimize your performance. Remember, as a valued listener, use the link in the description to get your first month free. Before we get started, as always, we want to give a big warm welcome if you are watching the live stream in the UMS Movement Mastermind Facebook group. Make sure you leave a comment. We'll send you some love back. Remember, anyone can join and interact with us live. Lastly, shout out to our YouTube athletes catching the replay. Hit the like button, support the channel, and subscribe if you like what you see. We filmed a brand new exercise video yesterday, coming at you soon, YouTube. Get ready. Of course, joining us again today is our resident physiotherapist, co-founder of ADPT Physio, Phil White. How are you today?
Good. It's been a good week of talking about athletic development, and if you didn't catch it, the ADPT, AD stands for Athletic Development Physical Therapy. So, this is stuff I love talking about. I think it's so key, to getting out of that sort of injury mindset and getting into, doing the stuff that you love. So, I think it's been a great chat and
this is your week. Jam.
Yeah, happy days.
This is your jam. Nice one. So, how are you, Rad?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm absolutely. I'm loving our new, schedules at the gym. Doing these shows around midday, getting a lot more done. Had a really good week, and looking forward to the weekend.
Awesome. I'm excited about this show. I'm excited about wrapping this up. This is a really important series, and we're going to try. We always try and do. Well, most of the time we try and do these without throwing too many stones. But today we're going to throw some frickin' stones.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really because I believe that it's important as strength and conditioning coaches and personal trainers and sports exercise scientists and physiotherapists that we encourage a culture among people who are exercising that is beneficial, not just for the business model and for making money, but beneficial for the individual. I mean, people join gyms to get results, and people become very discouraged from exercising when they don't get results. And it's become very popular to focus more on the making money part and less on the getting results part. And I think a lot of the business models out there are really letting people down, could be doing better about this. And I'm talking about exercise routines that, sell on the fact that you never do the same workout twice, and you never, it's all about entertainment. And of course, and Phil made a very good point yesterday, there is a balance. You got to find a middle ground. You got to be able to keep people engaged with the program long enough so that they form habits and get results and things like that. But I think that you got to be really careful not to go too far at either end of that spectrum. Don't become too analytical. We had a great discussion, I think it was yesterday's show, with one of our viewers who's a personal trainer who's done a sports exercise science degree. And he had a system of onboarding people where he was really trying to educate and coming from a really, really great place, but probably going a little bit too far on the spectrum of scientific jargon. And he even acknowledged it was going over people's heads, And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, which is just all about entertainment. And it's about randomizing the workout, making people just feel like they've been absolutely battered. I think it falls into the same category as the boot camp style training, where you literally just try and make people puke. So and then people start to think, well, that's how I have to train to get a result, And unfortunately, and what we're going to really talk about today, and the key message from today is that, we have a lot of research on what gives better results. We do know what the better way to train is, and it is to follow and adopt a series of principles that have stood the test of time. And one of the keys there is sort of simplicity and progressive overload. You do not need to do fancy exercises to get good results. Not everyone needs to progress to doing Olympic snatches and power cleans to get really strong, flexible and athletic. Those movements are fantastic for certain people and certain athletes, but not everyone has to do them, nor should they, And in the same token, people shouldn't probably be doing really complex movement patterns that focus heavily or are heavily weighted on complexity and coordination, and then there's no real path of progressive overload. And that's the key message that we've really been trying to teach this week. And today we're going to sort of talk about, okay, so we've made a good case as to why these things are important, as to why these things are going to waste a lot of people's time and deliver mediocre results. Well, let's talk about what it looks like in a program that's delivering really great results, and the easiest way for us to do that is to talk about how Phil and Nilesh work with clients in ADPT physio, because I think it's quite unique. I've been to a lot of physios who treat symptoms and don't treat causes, and we can talk till the cows come home about how we do it in the Unified Movement System. So why don't we kick that off with what our key 3 goals are when someone comes to us, whether they come for calisthenics, whether they come wanting to do handstands, whether they're a yogi that wants to get strong, or whether they're a power lifter that wants to get more flexible, whether they're a bodybuilder who wants to repair some damage to the body, whether they're a retired rugby league player or NFL player or AFL player who wants to sort of get moving properly again. What are the 3 key goals that we have very first to build a foundation in someone?
Are you talking about the balance between strength, flexibility and fitness? Yeah, well, those are the 3 main goals that we have, because the whole creation of the UMS was always to find a better way to train, and we never started by saying we're going to create a program that's different to what other people are doing. That's not how it became what it is. All we did was always look for a better way to train for ourselves. And because we've been doing it for so long, it's evolved and evolved and evolved. And then because we all worked out together, trained together, tested each other's skills and levels of strength, flexibility and fitness against each other, and could see that certain people's training was producing better results this way and that way and so forth. And eventually it turned into something that we recognized was a system, and so it was named. And then from there, delivering it to our members, we've just always constantly looked at what are the results that it's producing, how close are we to what the majority of the fitness industry says is required to achieve certain results, like whether you're looking at research that says to get flexible you've got to hold a stretch for 30 seconds 3 times on each side, or whether you're looking at the research that says if you want to get stronger you have to do 5 sets of 5 reps minimum, 25 reps in one workout on the same muscle group. Like all these things, we looked at that and looked at how our workout is, and then it was this constant balancing act of like there was this time recently where one of our friends in his late 30s had a stroke, and then it made us look at our program and go, oh man, we don't have any cardio in our program. Like we've just gone this whole way of just strength and flexibility now, and we tell people to do cardio, but people aren't doing it. It's like telling people to stretch after the session. That's why we do a balance between strength and flexibility. And so we forced a way to get cardio back in there. And it's really hard as a coach, because it's been really hard to keep it to 1 hour, but get enough of strength, flexibility and cardio training to make a change in somebody's body. That's been really hard for us to do. And that's why it's taken so many years to evolve to get to where it is. But it is this beautiful balance now that truly delivers and really works. And if you're new to this, if you haven't heard us talk about this stuff before, haven't really looked into it, look at our Instagram page, look at what our members are doing. I manage that page, and I make a conscious effort to post a hell of a lot more of what our members do rather than what we do, because they train for an hour a day, whereas we train for 2, sometimes 3 hours a day. So you shouldn't look at us for what we do. You should look at what our members do. And then also read our Google
reviews. The other really
reviews.
important thing to state there, which I spoke about in one of my emails this week, is that we've been training for almost 2 decades.
Yeah, we've got those members on that Instagram page, like even some of our highest performers, some of them have only been training with us for 18 months or so, some of the people that you're seeing. And I mean, some of them have only been training for 6 months, but the people that are doing the more impressive stuff are probably beyond the 12-month mark with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if we spin it around to the way that you guys work, you and Nilesh, of course I'm referring to Phil here, if you're watching on the podcast,
Watching on the podcast.
because we can do that now with new evolved eyes. We listen with our eyes and watch with our ears. You guys, the way you guys, I've been really impressed with which is why we've partnered. I've been really impressed with the way you guys work with clients, and it's really different. It's to the norm, if I dare say, compare you to other physios in the area, which I don't think is even possible at this stage. So why don't you explain a little bit about that and your philosophies?
Yeah, so with our business and naming it ADPT, like that athletic development side of things is what we really wanted to focus on, because so often with physiotherapy, it's kind of the context in which it lives is so often in that sort of injury identity, space of not being able to do the things you like, and going to see physio is all about taking time out of what you love to do like the chore that is physio. And the most common reason people would usually not engage with physios because they just find it boring, and they get some exercise that they feel like they should do because they've been told to, but they don't see how it actually affects what they're what's going on in the rest of their life, or what the sport they want to do. And it's just so generally non-engaging that you just tap out entirely and just drift off. Or people come and go to physio and get lots of hands-on treatment and get told to put on maintenance programs of hands-on treatment that doesn't actually address the biggest thing, which is teaching people how to look after themselves. So that's kind of our philosophy behind our physio work is all about that athletic development. And with Nilesh coming from his sports background of 10 years at the Greater Western Sydney Giants AFL club, he's seen professional athletes in action. And for me, it's coming from being a very injured athlete, playing 11 years of competitive ultimate frisbee, being constantly injured, and just being thoroughly underwhelmed by sort of physio experiences. So I guess that's the kind of context in which we're trying to push physio from a injured, not able to do things space to an athletics space. And so I really love this this conversation this week about how you can if we think about all the different variables in which training inhabits. So we're looking at progression of movement complexity, movement load capacity, flexibility, fitness, and strength. You can really for each person work with them, think about their goals, about what they want to be able to achieve, and change a few of the variables, but to deal with the injury, but then keep all the other variables up so they get a satisfying training experience and stay engaged with the activities they love. So I guess practical examples of what that might look like is if you do have a shoulder injury, then you can still go to the gym, you can still do your lower body strength, lower body mobility to its maximum capacity. You don't have to take time out and just be rest and get manual therapy. So that's the kind of that space in which I think it's really interesting. And just on I guess this topic today, where we're looking at how the UMS online coaching and is simple and effective. I think it's a really key thing with the science of health, so the science of training, but also of physio. When we're looking at this kind of evidence-based practice space, it can be really tempting to go look at scientific research and just grab everything that seems fun and interesting and just throw it against the wall and see what sticks. But what I love about the UMS online coaching, the UMS approach, is basically it's instead of just being a consumer and of science, we're trying to take a scientific approach to training. So we're actually using the scientific method of keeping things simple enough so that when you make a change, you can see a response. And so it's this kind of shift of not using science to wow and add all these confusing elements. It's taking that scientific approach of simplifying things, changing variables, and seeing a response. So,
and then collecting data, and then using that data and comparing it to the data you get from someone else, and kind of almost having this wicked collective peer reviewing group constantly checking whether it is actually something that is being replicated among a medium group of people, men, women, different age groups, as opposed to just the one person, us, and
we've been, like, we don't just say that. Like this week there's been a big, or the last couple of weeks there's been a big discussion between all of us about, like, what's going well in the the UMS system and what could be improved. And one thing that we're implementing now is having sort of more options for lower body sort of structural balance with lateral movement and like kind of giving that option between straight arm strength or adding on sort of lower body, a bit more structural balance stuff there. We've looked at changing progressions of the squat sort of progressions to address some of the deficits that we're seeing. So it really, and that's coming from the data that we're getting around people having troubles with certain movements, getting certain injuries, and so we're really trying to take that approach of like constantly refining. And you can only do that if you have this like scientific approach to how you're doing things and not just chucking shit at the wall.
and not just randomizing it. Yeah. Like not just having someone sit in a room thinking, what can I do tomorrow that's different than I did today? And that being the basis of your programming method, which is just ridiculous, completely ridiculous and kind of goes in the complete opposite direction. Like there's just no data you can collect from that's useful, that's going to benefit anyone. Except that everyone was confused and had to adapt to the workout today, and it kind of, it just blows my mind. And those are the stones that I'm throwing constantly, because the reality is that people think that that the most important thing is to be entertained, and it's a very short. It goes against this whole notion of, well, no, we need to educate people so they know what they're doing, so they get really good results. Yesterday I read a really great email from one of my mentors, Tony Battaji, who is doing a course on fat loss at the moment. And he one of the things he said is, one of the things I pride myself on is that every time I do one of these presentations, it's generally different content. I update the slides literally the week before I do the presentation, because it's an evolving space, and we're learning every year. We learn new stuff, and a lot of people say, "Oh God, I did that course a few years ago, and then I went back, and he was saying something totally different." Yeah, because he's learning just like we are, And if you're not taking that scientific approach, then it's kind of like, look, it just blows my mind, and that's, I think that should be key to everyone. We get so caught up in the next shiny object, the next cool thing, the fad, the trend. It was muscle confusion. It was functional movement patterns. There's lots of these things that go around, and you got to at some point decide, what am I here for? Am I here to get a result, or am I here just to be entertained? And just remember, there are pros and cons to both. The obvious pros to getting results are pretty obvious. You get results, and the cons are that from time to time you might find that it's not as exciting as a workout that changes every day. But the pros and cons to having a workout that changes every day are really obvious too. And the not so obvious con is that you are exposing your body to a lot more risk of injury, because there's no benchmark, there's no progressive overload, there's no load management. All of these things that are critical to keeping your body safe and developing results and strength, things like that, are just completely neglected.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, you might be sitting there thinking, well, I do want to be entertained, and I get really bored during my workouts, and fair enough. But we've drawn a line in the sand, and that's not who we're for. And we have made the distinction that we want to train people that want to get good results, and that's the people that fill our tribe, and it's definitely the people that fill our online coaching tribe as well, the UMS online coaching group. They're all people that are looking for a result. And the thing is that it takes a little bit of a shift in mentality, because you do have to accept that for several weeks, in our case it's 6 weeks, we do 6-week cycles, you will be repeating the same workout on Monday that you did last week. But it has this roll-on effect where after a few months you start to feel changes in your body, things that you've never felt before. And that is a very empowering feeling, and that gives a level of motivation that I think is far greater than the motivation to just want to be entertained. And
Alex C. Rook has just jumped on, commented that progression is entertainment.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
Exactly
It absolutely is.
It is happiness.
And if you haven't felt that before, you don't know what it's like. But if you think about, one of the reasons why sugar, alcohol, cigarettes, legal forms of drugs are so prolific, and why they're such a big part of society, is that it's an instant hit of endorphin. However you have it, alcohol, sugar, cigarettes, whatever it is, prescription drugs, you get
Say food engineering. I hate it when you say sugar.
Okay,
if you sat down and tried to eat a bowl of sugar right now, I guarantee you wouldn't get past 1 teaspoon. Sugar is not addictive.
You're also very big on making sure that we speak a language that people understand.
Yeah, fair enough.
And the whole industry is saying sugar, and you want to start saying food engineering.
I'm like gingerbread houses.
Yeah. So I'll speak the language that other people understand. But
when Rad says sugar, he means food engineering, engineered processed food.
It's but it's this instant hit. So you
Butchered by all the dietitians.
You can go from feeling crap to immediately feeling better after having one cigarette or having one drink or having one chocolate bar or whatever it is. And you can do that with working out in a way that is like a fad workout that just gives you an endorphin hit. But to get that result that Alex is talking about, to get that progression, it doesn't happen instantly. It takes more time, it takes patience, but the feeling is so much better. It's so much more satisfying.
It takes education, it takes benchmarking. Now I'm going to throw a big stone here, and I'm going to offend a lot of people, and I'm sorry if that's you. Well, I'm not actually, because you do need to sort yourself out. I've never met someone who is one of those people who love, like, say, I just can't do the same thing for a long time. I've never met one of those people who are super fit, who have achieved all their goals. Yeah. We've had a lot of them come, and we every time we do a presentation at Unity Gym for our fast growth workshop, the first thing we do is we go around the room, and it might be lately with COVID, we haven't been able to take more than like 20 people, but they've gone right up to sometimes 50 people, 60 people, and you go around the room, and everyone is asked where they've been, why they're here, and where they're going. And every time you get one person at least who says, I just need something new because I get really bored and I need to change constantly. And they're never anywhere near the fittest person in the room. They're never someone who's actually achieved their goals. Yep. And so, I really want to...
They're often the people that don't survive past 28 days.
Yeah, I really want to challenge those people. If that's you, if you feel like you're one of those people, just like you can change the blueprint around your health, around your wealth, around anything, you need to change your blueprint around exercise. And your that whole dogma that you're basing everything off. I need to try the next fad. I need to do this because if I don't, I'm not entertained. Because that's why you're not getting anywhere. You really should challenge that. Like before, Rad said, if some people are just like that and that's okay. I don't think it's okay. I think that person just needs to educate themselves. I think that person needs a bit more guidance from a good coach to educate them on how to progress. Because Alex is right. Progression is entertainment, but that person hasn't learnt that yet. They haven't seen it.
I think people need to be more honest with themselves, and you are, whatever your physical state is in right now, you are a direct reflection of the environment that you've created around you. And if you're sitting there thinking that that's what Yanni's just described, that's you, and you're 15 pounds overweight or 30 pounds overweight or whatever it is, then that's a reflection of the way that you're living your life. There's very few cases where that's a genetic condition that's causing you to be like that. It's got a lot more to do with the choices that you're making. And maybe you do need to start rethinking about the way that you approach training and entertaining.
Ooh.
Oh, look at that, silence.
And just in like a kind of injury context as well, from Physioland over in this back corner. I think like that idea of like when you do have so much focus on that kind of random entertainment, it does become much harder to understand where injuries, like exactly what's causing injuries. And so that's what I love about working with, the members from Unity Gym is like, exactly what they've been doing over the last, like 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 years. And it becomes quite like simple to then diagnose like what changes led to certain injuries. And of course, like if you just walk down the street and roll your ankle, like that probably doesn't have loads to do with your training. But most of the time in this sort of athletic population, in a on the field, like non-sports context, like injuries don't come from some traumatic injury. They come from a issue in load management, which can either be programming or technique. And so when you do have this really structured like simplified, progressive approach to exercise, like it just gives you so much power to understand, like, okay, like this is what went wrong, and then you can learn really valuable lessons that then makes you, so much more injury proof and a better performer going forward. So it just gives you not only it's not about just making my job easier, like, I can do lots of questions and assessments and whatever, but what it's really good is when we can work together and point out, like, hey, this changed here, you maybe overdid this certain thing, but you didn't do enough of this certain thing. Like that then becomes a really valuable learning experience for you, and then gives you that much power going forward. So.
Yeah. Now, the last thing I want to finish on before we wrap this up and jump over to our UMS online coaching daily group coaching call is that from a practical standpoint, if you are one of those people that find that you are needing entertainment in your training, one of the things that I would suggest you do is find something that you can use to demonstrate your skill and your fitness, your strength and everything with it. Might be a weekend sport or a hobby, rock climbing, something like that. And learn to, as a first step, learn to separate training from that competition or sport. Because, this is one of the problems that we're facing, is that these modern business model gyms that are doing these randomized workouts and trying to entertain people, they're similar to the mistake CrossFit made a decade ago when they just exploded. They really blurred the lines between training and competition, and therefore people are joining a gym, and that's becoming their way of expressing themselves in their physical attributes, but I think that's playing into the problem. And I think from a very practical standpoint, if you find that, okay, I need to be entertained, then do your entertaining somewhere else. Don't do it in the gym. The gym is a place to get it really dialed in, to build your strength, build your fitness, build your flexibility, build a more robust, injury resilient body, and then go and entertain yourself elsewhere. Do some dancing classes. Our gym manager here does salsa dancing. Do kung fu. Do a martial art. Do jiu-jitsu. Do a sport. Join a sporting club.
And then that gives you direction in your progression, which is what then can make the progression inherently satisfying. Is if you do, like for me, I play a lot of beach volleyball, and so a focus for me is jump height and like shoulder health, so I can keep spanking volleyballs all day and not have a sore shoulder. So that then is like very motivating for when I get into the gym, and then makes that progression, like you kind of get this double effect of not only having fun outside of the gym with your body, but also in the gym you suddenly like have something to attach it to. Whereas I know if I've just been training in the past, like the progression itself got me going for a little while, but it just didn't kind of hit the same way that having a sport, and everyone's a bit different at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, guys, we are going to bring this in for a landing. Alex Seabrook's made a great comment here. If you don't have a sport or a hobby, that's why we introduced calisthenics, because it provides a means to really progress and level up your skill, and then also a way to demonstrate your strength, flexibility, and fitness. And we can always help you with that. We got lots of masterclasses and all sorts of stuff you can do with that. Next week we're going to be going deep. We're doing a whole series on how to design better programs. You're going to love it, especially if you're ready to take your training to the next level. So look out for that. In the meantime, have a fantastic weekend if you are in Australia. If you are in America or anywhere else in the world that it isn't the weekend tomorrow, have fun at work. And we will see you next week.
See you guys.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, that's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that far.
It's the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.